eye look down on all the people looking up at the big sky. Everybody's pushing one another around.
Okay, welcome to 2-Month Review. This is the weekly podcast that we do to talk about a particular book over a long period of time, talk about it bit by bit, enjoy it. And the book we've been talking about is The Invented Part by Rodrigo Fresán. Now, as usual, this is Chad from Open Letter, and I'm here with Brian Wood, who's been the co-host throughout this whole season. And as you know, if you've been listening, we wrapped up by finishing the last part of the book last week when we talked to Valerie Miles. So this is a bonus podcast in which we have Will Vanderhyden, the translator of The Invented Part, and the author himself, Rodrigo Fresán, on this podcast to talk about the podcast itself, the book, about whatever we want. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
And it's good to hear your voice, Rodrigo. I feel like I've been living within you or near you or next to you for the past 3 months.
Okay, sorry for that.
No, it was absolutely the most enjoyable thing. Although I don't know where to start with talking about this, and Brian might have a better idea. But one thing I want to mention is that we both, when we were Brian and I were just on the local NPR station talking about this podcast and about your book and about other books and about other reading things. Mm-hmm. And one thing that came up was how Brian mentioned that after reading The Invented Part and going through it in this particular fashion in which every week we got into it and I wrote about it and all that it sort of broke reading. Like I can't read anything else. Everything else just feels flat or boring or just not, it doesn't have the specialness of The Invented Part at this moment. It's making my life really hellish.
Well, thank you. That was my master plan. No, thanks a lot. Not really, thanks a lot. And I'd like to say, first of all, that I'm very happy talking to you both here after listening to you after almost 2 months. It was very strange and very enlightening situation for me. And I had a great time, really. Really, a great time.
What was one of the things that we observed and made an observation with that you think was the most wrong?
Well, no. I mean, everything that was. I think almost everything was right, and I think you discovered a lot of things I didn't knew. You know, it was that's the whole part of the process between a writer and a reader. I'm very happy about that. Really, you sort of put it together. You know, so it was great for me, and it helped me in the and it really helped me in the writing of the third part where I'm right now. So it was really great. I'd like to thank everyone there. Really.
Oh, dude! No, we want to thank you. This has been incredible. I mean, this book is a masterpiece, and being able to finally take the time, part of starting the 2-Month Review idea was that we're always just churning out books and reading books and publishing books and pushing books and moving and reading the next submission, the next thing. And we love all these. The only reason that you can be in this business is if you love the books themselves. So to take the time to be able to actually sit and enjoy one and just sit and stew in it was incredible experience for me. Will, what did you think? Have you been listening to these?
Yeah, I have been listening to them, and yeah, you guys definitely. I mean, it was super entertaining, and the guests you had on were really, spectacular, and kind of ran the gamut from booksellers to authors like Jonathan Lethem or whatever. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. You guys really figured out I know you had already read the book, Chad, but you guys really figured out and broke down the structure in a really smart way by the end. I think I haven't heard the last one yet because that's not out yet. But
yeah, it'll be out in the morning. We'll hear it soon.
But
hello, Will. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Rodrigo. Good to talk to you.
How's the married life?
Oh, settling in. She's abroad in Guatemala right now, so
I thought you said
I'm living as a bachelor.
Yeah. I'd like to say that I'm very happy to speak now with the author of the book, because actually he wrote my book in English all over again, so he's the author.
Yeah. Well, that's flattering.
What do you mean by yeah?
Oh, I don't even know.
Okay.
How excited are you to be doing more of Rodrigo's books in the future?
Really excited.
Be honest.
I mean, no, I really am. It's a lot of work, and it will detract from all my other projects because it takes so much time. But yeah, I couldn't be happy.
Will, you belong to me now for years and years and years.
It's funny because
It's true.
You're being abducted by a godlike writer who's everywhere now.
Yeah, I know. That's you're the meta writer.
Okay.
before I was telling Valerie about my encounter with hemorrhoids. I don't know how I got on that subject with somebody as classy as Valerie. I was telling her that my favorite story in her anthology that you translated it. It was the one about the whale, the moment of impact, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, Elvio Gandolfo's story about the moment of impact. Yeah, that was a really cool story.
And it's completely different than I think Rodrigo's style in a way, because the whale story, it seemed like they were trying to take something absolutely bizarre and make it as realistic and as detailed and poignant as possible. And then with Rodrigo, it's like the exact opposite almost.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's an interesting author who hasn't gotten anything in English besides that story, I think, so far. But
oh wow,
but yeah, it is different, but definitely, I don't know about opposite, but different.
Well, I mean, not opposite, but in the way that there's this book almost seems to be fighting realism in a way. Like irrealism, I think, was one of the interesting words that was in here somewhere in one of the 800 pages we read. I know that word showed up at one point.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, in a way, that story could be an example of logical irrealism too, because it is logical. It is using that scientific way of describing the whale and its fall and everything, but then it's also like totally absurd that a whale would fall from the sky.
I have to say one of the other books. This will be my little segue to what we're doing here. Is that one of the other books that we have signed on of yours, Rodrigo, that you'll be translating, Will, but probably not for a while because of the next part of the trilogy, is Mantra. And we found out along the way, you told us, Rodrigo, that someone, one of your favorite barmen in Barcelona, created a new cocktail in your honor named Mantra that is tequila, pisco, tequila, pisco, ginger ale, and grapefruit juice. And Brian and I are going to town on these right now.
Ginger,
yeah, well, they're goddamn good. We're drinking these right now, and this is powerful.
It's very good. It's very good.
The thing I don't like about
it's
it
very
is
cheap in a way because no, and it's very economical in a way because with 1.5 of those, you're completely set up for the rest of the night.
Oh, you mean wait, what? Oh, we should have stopped sooner.
You should have stopped a while ago, Chad.
We should have stopped.
Well, they're refreshing. You want to drink something refreshing.
Yeah, this podcast is going to go all haywire as this one starts to hit. But we are also like, in terms of drinking, we also have another drink that we are going to be using at our gala this fall. Like every year, Open Letter has a celebration where you try and raise money and throw a big party and for all the books we did, and we're going to have one that
so you get drunk.
Yeah, so I get drunk, and we get a little bit of money. We get like $25. It's amazing.
Okay. That's a good way to get money.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that what publishing is? Is like finding schemes to make just enough to get drunk, so that you can continue going to the next scheme. Okay. No, it is a really fun. We're going to be honoring these two local translators. It's a whole thing. It's fun. There's like a silent auction, whatever. People listening don't care about that. But what they might care about is that we're going to have a drink called the Invented Part, which one of our board members owns a restaurant in town where we're going to be having this, and he's a master of cocktails. And he came up with the idea of the Invented Part, including absinthe, chartreuse, and then you choose between vodka, tequila, or rum. That's the Invented Part. The Invented Part is which one you.
Wow.
Oh, no, you're confusing that with, we're making one called a Karma, which is going to be a green milk that you can drink.
Oh, yeah, that's
it's
true,
going to be a very powerful...
Oh, yeah.
We're making a very powerful...
In the Invented Part, you have to keep one ingredient, like, in secret, like the invented part of the invented part. You can reveal it.
Exactly.
That would be absolutely perfect. So, Brian, you had actually...
Or you can change it all the time.
Yeah. Every sip is a new liquor, or every drink is a new liquor.
Yeah,
that you don't tell anyone about. Absolutely perfect. You had a question that you wanted to ask about the narrative distance.
Yeah. So when we're studying literature, they always kind of hammer it into our heads that you need to separate the narrator from the author. And I felt like when I'm reading this, it was almost like you were trying very hard to blur that as much as possible. Was that something that you were purposefully trying to do?
But it's something that happens in all my books. I think it comes from the situation of me wanting to be a writer since I had memory. I always wanted to be a writer. So when I wasn't writing, I was just like the kid in the book, just waiting to learn to write and read in order to become the writer I wanted to be. So it's all the same to me. You know, I can't picture myself being another thing.
Yeah, because it's very strange, because the experience of reading this, I felt like I was almost in your head or getting to know you very personally, your likes, your dislikes, lots of your...
But it's not me.
Yeah, but
the real key to the book is that the guy is completely different to me. I mean, he never got married. He never had a child. He sort of gelled or pushed himself in this sort of teenager idea of what a writer is, you know. And he's getting old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that was always the struggle.
The disillusionment, right? Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, it was always kind of playing.
And you know
with
what I really wanted to do. You know, when I was a kid, I really hated circuses. You know, I really hate to go to a circus. But what I really liked was the beginning of the show, at the ending of the show, when all the artists come together, and you have to sort of decide who are you going to watch. The lion tamer, the trapeze artist, the clowns, whatever, and I really like that sort of mixed up, all at the same time sensation. In fact, the book was written that way, you know.
Right, which has always amazed us. We brought that up on a lot of episodes because that is an incredible feat, and feels like if you tell that someone, like, I wrote a novel, it's 7 parts, and I wrote them at the same time, all these things going on at once, I think most people are going to be like, that's impossible, or that's absolutely crazy. And then when you read this book, when you read The Invented Part, it does make a lot of sense, because it does feel like these things are running in parallel, and that you're processing the idea of the writer and all the things that are going on in 7 different ways, and approaching 7 different forms.
Yeah, but yes, but at the same time, I think that everybody can understand it, because reality is like that, and everything is happening at the same time. I mean, the sort of linear, preordained, disciplined time that you find in realistic novels are completely realistic, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I shouldn't say this, but like, my students are not quite on that level yet. They still think that everything should operate like a Victorian novel. So
okay, yeah, but I really enjoyed them. I really like all the literature from 19th century, but to me it's like completely impossible, unbelievable, unrealistic. I mean, Wuthering Heights, which is one of my favorite books, and it shows up a lot in the second book, the trilogy, from this like a completely crazy, deranged Martian book, you know.
That's interesting. There's what I was going to ask you about the next book, actually, and maybe this is a good point to ask it, is what do you what do we have to look forward to? Like, I wrote the final post about this and sort of ended it with, like, you know, we know that there's 3 parts to this trilogy. The second one's been published, and Will has it and is going to start translating it. People will be able to read it soon enough. But like, what can we expect? How does these things link together? Or what is your scope now that you're thinking about 3 books instead of just 1?
No, well, I mean, it's pretty strange to me to talk about my own books. I always say that it's dancing with your own sister and discovering that your sister is not that good looking, you know?
All right, there's the blurb for the beginning of the podcast.
But if you ask me to dance all the same, I'll do it. And I'll say that, I mean, in the next, I can tell you like some sort of coming soon preview, coming attractions of my next Marvel Comics movie as a book.
Right on.
And in the dream, sorry.
Nope, yep, go on. That's perfect.
Okay, no, the next book is you get a lot more things. You get a lot of blood in your neighborhood. And you get one very dark, very this guy hates mobile phones so much.
Which is funny because your phone is acting up, so we're getting a lot of the static. So here's the mobile phones coming back at you again.
I had a question about the invented part from as far as when you were writing it. Did you find that there were some sections that were easier to write and some that were more of a struggle to write?
No, not at all. Not really. I mean, the last one was when I sort of started to tie the knots. I had to sort of be a little bit more careful. But to me, writing is really it's fun. Really, I don't have a very bad time. Never had a bad time reading or writing. I hate the idea of this sort of commonplace of the writer as some sort of gloomy, anguish character. I really like the writers that have fun while doing it.
Yeah, because as I was reading it, I could tell you were having a lot of fun writing it. And there were some sections where, for instance, the one where you were giving the history of the Murphy family. Mm-hmm. I thought, man, this has got to be so hard to write because of all the biographical details. Like, it seems like it was so researched. I was like, man, this has to be hard. But I could tell you're having fun.
But at the same time, the idea is filling up one of those albums you have when you were a kid, like looking for particular things, and suddenly being completely shocked when reality gives them to you.
What is it like for you, Will? Was there like parts was it enjoyable along the way, or were there any sections that were more challenging for you as the translator?
In a practical sense, the long section in part 2 where there were no paragraph breaks and it was just moving back and forth between the two fonts, like that was exhausting. But it's some of my favorite part. It's part of. I really like that part a lot. But no, I mean it was mostly really fun. I like the opening section and the last section are probably. I don't know. I don't want to pick favorites actually, because at different times they appeal to me for different reasons, and just the way it's structured, it's so ingenious. It's kind of a fun experience to read in all kinds of ways, which you do.
But I think that translating that part in a way helped you, because I'm sure that when you finish it, you said, "Okay, now I'm getting married."
Yeah, exactly. Now I got this. Now I understand it. Totally. Yeah.
After a 100-page paragraph, I'm starting to get this a little bit.
I know what I'm doing.
That section was a giant fuck you to e-readers.
And I'm ready for a wedding now.
Yeah, right. A karma wedding.
Exactly.
That's perfect.
That section had me cracking up in so many different parts. It was so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to pick a favorite either, but I have to say the part with IKEA attacking the writer at the end in the 7th section, just being like, "Look, man, nobody wants these books. Just stop already." It's got to be my favorite.
Yeah, but the fun part, 2 years from now, you'll discover that this whole section and this family, the Karma ones, are the main characters of Mantra, my other book, which is the book this guy stole from his sister.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing you guys don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to put both the characters' faces on the cover for sure, because that's the best way to sell a book, I think.
Okay.
The Karma family on the cover, just them.
Just the characters' faces.
Which might actually be a good segue into that. One of the other things that we did in preparation for this is, I know that we have jacket copy and we've written it, but because IKEA has so much focus on like the way that you could be a writer and the different books that exist on how to be a writer, Brian has one that helps kind of explain certain things. Why don't you take this away?
All right. So I was in the library. I was trying to find something similar to 7 Deadly Scenes, which is talked about in the Invented Part, a craft book. So I found a craft book, and at the very end of it, it had a how to write your own jacket copy, and it's step-by-step instructions on how you're supposed to write the jacket copy. So here are the instructions.
It's not the one I used.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so
This is amazing, though.
So it starts with paragraph 1. Begin the first paragraph with your lead character's name and her current situation. So blank is a blank who blanks. and then write one or two more sentences describing something of the character's background and current world. So there's your first paragraph. Paragraph 2. Start this paragraph with the word suddenly or but when. And fill in the major turning points, the doorway that is going to lead us into Act 2. And then paragraph 3. Begin this last paragraph with the word now. And make it an action sentence like, now Brad must struggle with a harrowing mystery. Or begin with the word...
I mean, no, I want it. I really want... I mean, you can write a whole novel like that. It's amazing.
or you can start with the... Or with will. Will Molly be able to claim her inheritance? And then give a sentence that has all of the action crashing down. The very last sentence is a inspirational kicker. For instance, The Montagues is a stunning debut novel by one of America's bright new talents, sure to capture your heart and leave you yearning for more. So we took this it's 3 paragraphs and an inspirational kicker, and I challenged Chad to write the copy using this, and then I wrote some copy using this. So we're going to read that to you guys now.
Yeah, so we have new jacket copy that is inspired by this. So I took the point of view of the writer being the main character. You'll see what Brian did next. So here's mine. The writer is a writer who realizes that the last part of his career isn't going how he expected. As sales of his books steadily decline, those of his arch nemesis, IKEA, a former student with a better agent, better hair, and a better-looking audience, continues to explode. To the writer, his future seems grim, destined to fade slowly into outmoded obsolescence. Suddenly, the writer is given an assignment to go to Switzerland and write about the Large Hadron Collider, an opportunity that gives him an idea for resurrecting his career. Maybe he could break into the collider, expose himself to the God particle, and transcend space-time. Now he has a way out, a way to leave the world with one last great impression. But what does transcendence hold for him? Even with an infinite amount of time, will he ever be able to craft the perfect sentence? Will he ever best IKEA? The Invented Part is as slick as a Kubrick movie, as witty as Sabrina the Teenage Witch meets the Matrix, and will change your life forever.
Amazing, really.
That's brilliant.
No, I like the idea of character be named suddenly.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the only thing you can do. Either suddenly or but when.
That's the only turning point.
All right.
So here's Brian's.
I'm going to do mine with but when. Okay. The young man is an aspiring writer who is struggling to film a documentary of his favorite writer who has mysteriously disappeared. Joined by a young woman who he lusts after, the young man sets off to uncover the missing pieces of the writer's life. Suddenly, but when they meet the writer's crazed sister, Penelope, the young man is pushed into breaking into her compound, setting it ablaze, and discovering a deep, mind-shattering secret. Now, the young man must question his integrity, sanity, and if the writer is adrift in a bottomless sea like his own mind. Rodrigo's The Invented Part is a tour de force of action, romance, and tackling the most important question, where do you get your ideas from?
Nice.
These formulas are the best. Like, you don't have to do anything. You can just follow along.
Very good.
You guys need to post these with the podcast when you put it up on 3%.
Oh, we will.
No, like
People will get a kick out of this.
Put it, please. Publish. I want them published. I want them official.
And the great thing is, I literally wrote mine in 2 minutes, which you could tell, because it writes itself really with the suddenly and but when. Yeah. This is wonderful. More people should write these.
Yeah, you just don't have to think at all.
You just need a prefab formula, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
I think it shows that Rodrigo's book does not fit formulas.
I need that book. Send me the title of the book, please.
Oh dear. Okay, it's actually on plot and structure. So.
Oh my.
Yeah. Okay. Which your book doesn't follow any of the rules that he set forth in plot and structure.
No, yeah, I know.
I have a question that's way off of Invented Part, but that I think will be perfect. So you were at the in Iowa for the international writing seminars, right?
Yeah, it's true.
What can you tell us about that? When did you come and how did you find that experience?
I think it was 1996, and it was a very strange thing because you arrive there in a very hot weather and you live there freezing yourself to death, and it's a very strange place, and I was roommated with this Russian, completely crazy and deranged writer Victor Pelevin. I don't know if you heard of him.
Oh man, really? Yes, I do know Victor Pelevin.
and he sort of escaped the premises without permission, and so I had the FBI interrogating me all the time about Victor's whereabouts, something like that.
Holy shit!
But it was fun. I mean, it's the kind of thing you have to do. And it was fun to me because John Cheever was a teacher there, and Kurt Vonnegut and Dennis Johnson, and I really like the idea of going there. I was there for 4 months.
That's
nice.
Really cool. Did you end up using any of that, any of your experience in any of your stories or novels?
In the book of mine that it's titled La Velocidad de las Cosas, the speed of things, there are a few things that in
what was Flannery O'Connell like
in the Invented Part also? Sorry?
Yeah, did you actually escape from the workshop to go see the Kinks in New York, or was that was made up?
True story.
True story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was invited by Ray Davies himself. Another true story is Bob Dylan in his underwear.
That's a true story too?
True story.
Oh man, while he's washing his blue jeans in the bathtub?
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Nobel laureate Bob Dylan.
Yeah. So that's why this book is so fun, is I know the writer is not you, but some of these pieces did happen, or you're taking them, putting them in there. That's part of the game.
They're so insane they have to be
true.
real.
Yeah. The real, completely real.
One of my favorite parts of your book, I'll just read it real quick, and it has to do with John Cheever in Iowa. It says, the young man attends a writing workshop where he learns a little, and where every so often, pure impossible desire someone evokes with a dreamy voice the literary workshop once taught by a drunk and staggering John Cheever in the middle of Iowa cornfields, where, as an exercise, he recommended that his students keep a detailed journal for 7 days and strive to bring together 7 apparently irreconcilable people or landscapes or feelings in a single text, and then finish it off with the decisive assignment that, quote, never fails, to write a love letter as if from inside a burning building. I just thought that was such a wonderful passage, and I think it provided so much insight of how to read the book. And thanks for it's a true story, and it gives some sort of structure to the book. Another 7-part thing that it's not directly mentioned, but it's this Pink Floyd song in their first record that I think it's titled Chapter 24, when they say sort of there are 6 parts to everything, and the 7th is return.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. I don't have any other really good pressing question, but I was going to say that for people who are listening to this that like the Invented Part, the next book of yours that's going to come out is actually Bottom of the Sky, which we have planned for May of 2018, and we're actually printing galleys of it right now, today. So if you're a bookseller and you're interested in this, or a reviewer, just let me know, because we're going to have some early copies for you. That book is different in a lot of ways. I mean, there is some similarities. You have a particular style, way of being very smartly observing things and framing them, and having a kind of two levels to where the thing's being described, and then there's also the way in which it's being described that is so important in the style. But in this case, in Bottom of the Sky, it is very much like steeped in more in science fiction, and Gulf War 9/11, more contemporary stuff. But how do you describe it? How do you feel about Bottom of the Sky, looking back on it now from a point of working on this trilogy, which seems to be like a madcap, like gigantic project, whereas Bottom of the Sky is an earlier book, a little more contained?
It's very difficult to me to think about my books as isolated books. For me, are like part of the same project in a way, or different rooms of the same house. But I mean, the idea to me, I mean, the main idea to me about writing the Bottom of the Sky was the idea of, I mean, not discovering, but finding out that science fiction had become something in the past, something very nostalgic and melancholic, and that the future was the present. And I really wanted to do some sort of, I don't know, like a fond requiem to the idea of science fiction. And I knew while I was a kid, I think I'm 54 years old now, and I think people my age, probably we had the last futuristic childhood,
Mm-hmm.
In terms of thinking about the future as a place where there will be computers and that sort of thing,
And where you'll never have to work because robots will do everything for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when I was a little kid, we had a computer lab, and this was when computers were first starting to show up in school. And there was a poster that said, like, "Dream of the Future," and it showed a man with a wristwatch, and his wristwatch was a computer, like a big computer monitor and a full keyboard. Like, that's the way computers are going to get small. But their vision of the future was just take a big, huge functioning computer and just make it small on your wrist. But it looked like an actual desktop computer floating on.
I think Dick Tracy used to have one of those, I think, in the comic strip.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
It was basically that with a typewriter keyboard on it.
When I worked at a bookstore, an independent bookstore in Michigan, we used to have like a huge magazine section back when magazines were still published in a thing in print. And one of the magazines that we carried was called Information, and the slogan tagline on it was "Every day computers are making people easier to use." I always thought it was like this perfect way of summarizing our relationship with technology.
Yeah. No, but you see, when I was a kid, computers were supposed to be as big as buildings and sort of, ill-tempered, cranky, dangerous as in 2001,
Yeah.
Right.
And the funny thing is, all the data now, they're making these giant buildings to house servers for all the info. Like, computers are becoming even bigger now because of them getting smaller. It's really weird. Like, it's breathing or something.
Yeah.
Did you ever read the Asimov short story? It's called The Last Question.
Yeah, the one about God.
Yeah, where the computer gets as large as the entire planet because it's asking the most important questions. I'm glad you read it, Rodrigo. Jeez, you guys suck. The rest of you on here, come on, read something. What's wrong with you? Jeez, Louise.
I remember reading Asimov as a kid. That's like, my memory is so bad of like the stuff that I read like when I was 13 to 20 is mysterious to me now. Like, I feel like it's had an influence. Like, even going back this summer and rereading Ulysses, and then I'm rereading Lolita right now. And both of those I read 20 years ago, which at that time, like, I mean, I still remembered them and I still, had an impact, but they've always been books I've used as like touchstones of like what kind of reader I am or the type of books I like. But like, man, my memory of those is very vague. And going back to it, it's a weird experience to be like, oh yeah, no, I remember how this impacted me 20 years ago. And now seeing in that light, I'm sort of both rejuvenated and like a little bit like, oh yeah, I've moved along. I understand more. I get a sense of time from going back to the things I liked at that point.
Yeah.
Man,
the same thing happens to you when you become a father. It's like you're reliving childhood all over again.
Dude, tell me about it. My son's going off to camp for 2 weeks for the first time on Sunday, which I never actually did, but nevertheless, I can go through that experience where he's like 10 and he's like, all I want to do is be away from all of you for 2 weeks and get the hell out of this place.
He's going to be exposed to so much pornography.
It's going to be the best.
You have no clue.
which is which is totally fine. I'm totally good with that. He needs a little bit of little seasoning, so to speak. But that brings up another question, Rodrigo. So the story of am I remembering this right? That your son did find the toy, the wind up man that kind of became the frame.
Yes.
What is the story?
We were going to school and I was completely stuck in the book. I didn't have a clue what to do with that sort of 600 pages, 7 sections at the same time, and there was missing thing. And he saw this antique toy in a paper shop, and he told me, that's the cover of your next book. I said, okay, well, maybe, who knows? And then he was 5 years old then, and then but he's going to be even the main character of your book. I said, come on, Daniel, stop. I mean, maybe the cover, but I'm not going to put the toy as the main character of my book. And I left him in school, and I went back home, and I didn't know what to do. I was in front of the screen, and suddenly I thought, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to put this toy in a few places and see how it works. And it worked completely, really. It was a miracle.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a great image. It's a great motif that runs throughout and that works really well to sort of keep coming back to as a beat and to frame things.
But did you actually go in and buy the toy? And what was it?
Yeah, I have it.
Is it effective? Does it run in reverse?
No.
That's invented.
But the fun thing now, and when Chad can see it when he comes here in September, is that some bookstores now they sell it.
Oh, really?
Amazing! It's become a little icon.
You're just like George Lucas. You just made this to sell toys, probably. It's like Star Wars.
That's what the whole idea.
Yeah.
Oh man!
You didn't have to make the book that long to sell a toy. It could have been shorter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's too late.
Too late.
Maybe I'm going to write a fourth one and to be titled "The Shorter Part."
The brief part.
Yeah.
It'd be 22 pages.
Exactly. No. I already have it. It's the things you two wrote about the book, following the instructions.
Right, the jacket copy that they wrote. Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be the short part.
That would be perfect. And actually, you know what it'll be? It'll just be a tweet.
Yeah, it'll be a tweet.
Yeah,
the tweeted part.
Exactly. Yeah, the tweeted part is amazing.
The tweeted part. It's just no, fuck you, fuck Twitter. The end. That part I assume is real because I know you're not on Twitter, and Twitter is a bad place. So smart on your part for staying away from it.
I had to fight a couple of guys who impersonate me on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they were telling my life, and the stupid and most annoying part that some newspapers here were quoting their Twitter as mine.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
No, and I had to fight them. And it's very difficult to expel them from Twitter because Twitter says that it's some sort of homage or a parody or a pastiche, and there's a secret clue if you want to take out that I sort of discovered it and I applied it and I could get them out, but it's very difficult to attain it.
You should just have Brian run your Twitter.
Oh, jeez. I'm not very good at it.
I have one last question for you related to that, and then we should probably wrap up. But how does so you say that about the Twitter and about people that were using your name, and here in the American publishing market, if a American writer was here's my book, blah blah blah, well, the publisher or the editor is going to be you need to be on Twitter, you need to be on Facebook, you need to cultivate your voice, you need to get an audience,
platform,
you need to interact with them. It's a platform as part of your platform. And the fact that you could not do that and be a wildly successful author in Spain and elsewhere is maybe something that American readers would never have heard of. How different is the Spanish kind of publishing scene right now? do you? I don't know if you have a sense of that, how it differs.
No, they try to make you do those things, but I mean, they lost me with me. I mean, and they fail.
Okay.
They can't.
So they would love that. But
no,
no.
and I have the idea. I have the suspicion that if you're very visible in Twitter or in Facebook, people will read that part of you, and they don't care about the books, really.
Dude, I wrote a whole article once about how no one reads anything that you put on Twitter. They just see the link in the headline and they favorite it and retweet it. And that it was sort of like half satirical, like tongue in cheek of like, well, that's the most important thing is just to get people to keep retweeting this article because then more people will see it and they'll think that it's important and blah, 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 blah. And that was the most retweeted thing I've ever written in my life. Like everyone retweeted it. It was just like kept being favorite. And I was like, this is so dumb because like this is exactly what I predicted would happen. And obviously no one's reading it. No one's paying any attention.
I'm going to tweet that out a little later today, I think. Actually, that's a good idea. Huh. I might get a follower.
Yeah. Man, yeah, it is. The follower thing is depressing, too, because that's how a lot of people judge their life success.
It's like being a pastor without a Bible. And so you're just like, follow me, and listen to what I have to say.
Oh, man. So I should probably wrap up, but I should say, too,
I think in Bible you can put on a lot of suddenlies in the blank places.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, I have to say, Rodrigo,
and it's like and the prophet suddenly said, suddenly you're going to know the wrath of God.
Yeah. It's even better if you're out in the wilderness, you know.
I wonder how long you could get away with just tweeting things that began with suddenly.
Yeah.
Suddenly this happened to me.
I'm gonna try that. Let's do a whole month with suddenly and but when.
Yeah. Just see how it goes. People will love it.
Yeah.
No one will ever notice.
No, and Moses treated the commandments. He said, next tweet, first commandment.
Hashtag rules or whatever, yeah.
Man. So,
Hashtag commandments.
Yeah.
Hashtag commandments. Bad.
No,
good.
So no translate.
On a serious note, though, I'm so glad I got to be a part of this first season and get introduced to your work, Rodrigo. I'd never read anything. I didn't know anything about you until this first book, and it's been such a pleasure reading it. It's very inspirational for me, very refreshing.
And I really like your short stories. I have to say this on air. I want it on record. Really.
Hey, all right. Well, the check is in the mail. U.S. dollars coming your way, my friend. Thank you for the kind word.
I think I'll say this because Brian won't, but he's said many times that reading this book at this time is like perfect for writing his novel and is like sort of freed him up to be able to do more and experiment more and do more fun things that might otherwise have felt like you're not supposed to do it that way or been sort of confined, and that this book sort of broke that open. So
yeah, Brian, I meant to congratulate you for being the finalist for the BOA Prize. That's a pretty big deal.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I didn't know that.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it from both of you guys. Thank you very much.
Did you tweet that?
I did not tweet it. I did not tweet any of that, actually. I'm failing with my
tweet it. Suddenly tweeted.
Suddenly tweeting.
Yes. Suddenly. I won. I was a finalist.
Yeah.
Prize.
Yeah. Close but no cigar.
And then.
Yeah.
Oh man. So this has been super fun. The whole season's been fun. Talking to you guys has been fun. And I will see you, Rodrigo, in September. I'm there in Spain for our Catalan trip. But
is there a way to get him out to America? Because I would love to meet him and hang out.
The thing that I was going to say is that on April 24th specifically, Rodrigo will be here in Rochester as the Plutzig series reader, the fiction writer for the spring. And based around that, we're going to do a tour that will include New York. And then depending on how many plane flights you're willing to go on, we can go to visit all the booksellers who love you from Houston, San Francisco, Chicago, elsewhere. So, and I'll be going with you on that trip. We'll be hating airports together, but we'll get all those dates together. They'll be in the end of April.
Come, Chad?
Yeah.
I'll be there. I'm sending my double.
Yes. You know what we're gonna do, man? We are going to tweet that entire tour. We're gonna live tweet your tour.
Or maybe I can send my son, my 10-year-old son. It'd be great.
He would love it. Yeah.
He gives great interviews.
He can come hang out with the kids. That would be fun. So
My son does a lot of suddenly stuff. I mean, he'll be great.
Speaking of interviews, I tried to sort of prepare to talk with you. So I went on YouTube and I found you giving an interview to some lady in Spain. And I don't understand Spanish. I understand a little bit of Mexican because I grew up in California. Spanish is a whole different language apparently. But all I did was I watched the whole thing where it was you and this very done up broadcasting lady who probably never read your book or whatever, and watching you guys talk and
of course
it was so fun to watch her enthusiastically ask a question I didn't understand and you sort of pretending to be enthusiastic answering the question.
Sorry of my life.
So I watched the whole thing in Spanish, just laughing, thinking man, he probably hates every question she's asking. I guarantee it.
Oh my God!
No. It was great being with you. I mean, I had a lot of fun listening to you and now talking to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Super fun. So we'll be seeing you. Everyone in America, stay tuned. We'll have all the details about the tour in the not too distant future. But in the meantime, get the book, read Kensington Gardens, get prepared for Bottom of the Sky, which will also blow your mind. And thank you both for coming on. This has been fantastic. And man, these mantras are stiff. This is some good shit. Everyone get one of those too. So thanks, and we'll be back soon with the next book in the series, which is Tómas Jónsson bestseller, but you'll find that out on the podcast or whatever.
I'm going to listen to it.
Excellent.
Me too.
You guys will love it.
I want to listen to you all try this, to treat with respect to another writer, not like me.
I don't. Yeah, the Tómas Jónsson one's gonna be fun. I'll send you a copy of the book because I think you'd really like it.
Somebody else's ugly sister.
Yeah.
No, really. Listen, for me, it would be great to hear the future podcasts and discover you two talking like some sort of masterpiece theater hostages.
Hey, Chad, send me a copy too.
I will, man. I will. Well, thank you both.